Yeah, so I didn't ask for an interview. But my players wanted to interview me, so I said yes. So I don't really know what the questions are, and I don't know what the purpose behind this is, other than I'm being interviewed by my wife.
Well,
so.
The purpose was that you were going to interview all of the players.
Yes.
And so we were all going to have like a little introduction type thing, but all of us kind of wanted to come up with a few questions for you.
Okay.
So we put you on the spot.
Okay.
Our first question we came up with was, why do you want to run a game?
Like this game or in
Like
general?
any game. Like why run a D&D game?
Right. Humans are meant to tell stories. Storytelling is like the oldest form of communication. We learn ethics through stories. We learn everything. Like humans just learn through stories and storytelling. I like running a game because I like to like create that narrative and like weave that tale. That I mean, some people like just to read a book because they want like to have that story. I like to run a game because not only is the story my making, the story has other people who get to put into it, so I'm surprised by them. They do things I don't expect, they do things that are awesome, and I'm like, oh wow, that changes the whole story up, that's so cool. And that's why I absolutely love Dungeons & Dragons, because like, I can kind of guess what you're going to do after playing with you for so many years, but I'm never exactly sure. Where if you read a book by like an author, the book, probably like the 7th book they've written, you can kind of guess what's going to happen.
And next question is, in your opinion, what makes a good game?
If they're having fun. If everyone's having fun. It's a group effort. Everybody has to be enjoying it. Not every time. Some people have off days. It's like any other hobby. You can have an off day, but are your people having fun? So what I consider a good game, I mean, there's like different like levels of it, but when I end a game and I make one of my players legitimately cry, real tears, you were there, real tears, or like laugh so hard they almost wet themselves, or like feel that sense of betrayal, when I can weave a tale or a narrative or a storyline through multiple sessions that make people like feel the actual emotion, not actually feel emotion, but like really feel emotions and get like tied to the characters, that's fun. A good game is when you stop playing and for the next 3 hours they're talking about the session.
Right.
Like they can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going to play next? Blah, blah, blah. You know, they're just like totally into it. And as a GM, that's like how I like to weave a story.
So, what do you expect out of your players when they play your games?
Effort. Not everybody can do like voices. I can only do a couple voices. Not everybody can like know everything all the time. But if they're trying, if they show up to my table and they're trying to play and they're trying to be like part of the group dynamic, and if they're trying to push the storyline along, even if they're the bad guy, like if they're trying to push the narrative along, that's great. That's all I want from people. I want them to have fun, and I want them to, I expect them to treat it like a group effort. Because I want to have fun too, running the game. So if I have a player that says he wants to argue about the rules and wants to do all that kind of stuff, like there's a time and place for that, but it's not during the game.
Right.
The game's about, I want people to come, try their best, enjoy the game, and try to be open-minded.
Right. What would you say the hardest part of running a game is?
The hardest part of running a game, for me at least, is probably making sure I link all the characters into the game so that they feel like they're part of the storyline. I've had people say that my games are like character dramas because I really want to make sure that you and the person sitting over here and stuff, like, they have some reason to be in the story. They're not just like, as in D&D words, they're not just murder hobos, running around just like killing. To me, that's boring. I want to create like this really flushed out narrative. So making sure that everybody's involved. And I guess the other hardest part about making a game is creating a convincing storyline that the players can't frickin' hand grenade when they whip out their random magical item that you forgot that you gave them in session 3. And they're like, yeah, I killed the bad guys. You're like, oh, son of a... So you just have to stay consistent. It changes with the group dynamic.
Yeah, different players do different things.
Right.
D&D is a combination of character play and dungeon mastery. Which do you prefer and why?
I can't play.
You can't play.
I absolutely cannot play. Like, I have to run games. I've been running games for so long that I'm like in the... And there's people might watch this and be like, that's dumb. That doesn't... For me, it does. Like, the idea of playing a game, call it what you will, and not being able to, like... Maybe I'm a psychotic control freak. I don't know. Maybe I'm just owning it. Maybe I'm just crazy. But, like, I really enjoy it when I'm weaving the story. When I'm getting those reactions from people. When I'm playing, I feel as though I'm not doing my due part. And it's when you've done something for so long. Could I ever play a game in the future? Probably. But, like, right now, like, I never think about playing.
Right.
I just think about, like, running a game. And, like, what am I do this with Parl and the King of Garland and all these different things that I've created to kind of weave together. And I'm just like, this is what I do. So.
Out of all the NPCs you've ever created,
Oh, gosh.
who is your favorite?
Oh, my gosh. Wow. Sard? No, I have, like, multiple favorites.
Oh my gosh. I
So,
forgot
like,
about him.
So, like, probably, like, Sard. He was a, he was a Deva, disguised as a human, sent down to help the heroes of the quest line fulfill their goal.
Wasn't that Jennifer's campaign?
I think so.
Yeah, because I think that was her love interest.
The gnome.
Technically, well, did you create him? Because I thought Bryce had.
We created him together.
Okay, because he was
but
a
he's
character.
a reoccurring NPC.
Right. Yeah.
He is the gnome, and people who watch the game they'll see the gnome.
Right.
It has to be in my games. Probably my villain Mephistophelion.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pretty awesome. I like my villains.
Your villains are pretty badass.
You know, I go crazy overboard with my villains. My villains are like, I always try to make my villains identifiable. Like, you almost want to be like, I kind of like this villain and hope he wins.
But I'm the hero.
I've had... Yeah, there's so many of them. Like, but yeah, definitely like the gnome, Sard. What was her name? This badass warrior, female. This paladin that was served god of slaughter. What was? My gods are pretty cool though. If you consider those NPCs, like Goros, the god of slaughter.
Right.
I think Kothos.
No, I think we were just specifically like on character or NPCs that helped like the party along.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
necessarily like.
Yeah.
I mean, all your gods are awesome.
But I don't have to do a lot of work with NPCs because you guys usually carry all the weight.
When you started playing D&D, when was that point where like you started to DM and you were like, okay, I can't play anymore. Like now I'm just a dungeon master. That's what I do.
My friends kind of always be like, dude, you're way more creative than us.
Oh,
You should
okay.
run the game. And that started happening after, like, I think I bought the second ed books.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know how to play second ed, you're instantly my friend. And if you don't, then you're a punk. No, I'm just kidding.
He's not lying.
When I bought my second ed books and I got all my friends together that were like, we were all like jocks and not the good kids. But we got the books together and like, dude, you're way more creative. Like, it was all that past of running those little games with my friends and being creative. And so I was like, well, I'll just do it. That's fine.
So you really hadn't played like a lot of D&D
No.
before you started DMing, and then that was just it.
Yeah, no, I just kind of started running games.
We know you created Parl.
Yes.
Tell us how old you were and how it came about.
I was in high school, so that was 1999,
Mm-hmm.
98. My dream one day is to have Parl like bound, and
For sure.
excuse me, and like not even like making money off of it. I guess just like it's my
Just how it-
creation, and it's all there. There is like a fully realized world in my head. People, places, things, religions, cultures, absolutely everything. Like absolutely everything down to like the most minute detail. It started in high school and I started running games because I was like, oh, I like this world. And we'd run it for a while, but I'm like, I kind of wish stuff was like this. And I got tired of always changing the rules of worlds, like campaign settings,
Mm-hmm.
to fit my narratives. So I'm like, why don't I just do what I want? So I just kind of started, and people who watch, if anybody watches the game we run, they're gonna see that like they're gonna be like, oh, I recognize that because I kind of take like everything I love and smash it together. So it's like part Forgotten Realms and part Dark Sun and part anime and part Lord of the Rings and part this and part that and part this, without me trying to like just directly steal it. But like if I took all those things and you put them in a blender, you blend it up and you pull out the stuff you love and you just smash it together. So it's been a growing
I know
thing.
it's always changing.
Yeah, because I do living campaigns.
Right.
I refuse to do anything else but living campaigns. Anything my players do, I write into the history of the world.
Right.
So every time we've played a campaign, we have changed Parles into the future.
Right.
So it's still growing. One day I'll have to like stop and actually write it down when my ADHD settles down and I can actually write a sentence without.
So what is your favorite part of Parle?
There are so many different facets of Parle that I love and that I think my players love, because when my players get together, they don't ask me to run Forgotten Realms. And if they hand me a module and said, hey, we'd like you to run this module, or I pick one, they want me to run it in Parle. I love my deities because I took my pantheon of gods and I think they're distinct, like Ralus and Rhea.
It's my favorite.
Ralus and Rhea, who are like the good gods, but there's two of them, and they're like a married couple, and it's just like Kathos. Not only is he the god of tyranny, power, and enslavement, but he's also like probably one of the coolest villains ever, in my opinion. I know I created this, so of course I'm going to be biased. So I love my religions and the take on how religious power works in Parle and how prayer directly relates to a god's power. So there was that battle of like trying to destroy each other's churches and build up the power of the ethereal and how that connects into it. Me stealing like bits of Planescape and forcing it into like a other fantasy setting. So yeah, I also like my cultures because I took real cultures and I like placed them all around the world, and then I chopped them up into like high and low fantasy settings and like recreated them in a different image, keeping all of their bits and parts, the good and the bad. I like how my world's gritty. My world's very gritty. Like there's politics in it. There's good guys that are bad guys, and there's bad guys that are really good guys, and there's a lot of like moral gray area, because that's what it would be like. I would try to think of like, what if you took a medieval world, threw in some monsters, threw in some magic, threw in some divinity, and then step back. It'd be crazy. It'd be absolutely crazy. And I like to call it a high-low fantasy setting. So there are magics that can destroy the world, and dragons the size of like mountains.
Right.
But that stuff's rare. So it's like high fantasy, but people don't experience a lot, so magic's still frightening to them and things like that. So yeah, I could go on for like 10 hours on that topic.
Tell us a little bit about Ralph and Rhea.
They started off as twins.
Right.
When I first made the world setting.
Right.
Rhea is the goddess of compassion, truth, and basically kind of like
Motherly.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing about my gods, is that you can't really define them by
Right.
words, but she's just like, she's called like the most compassionate one, and like wisdom. She's also super wise, and her twin was Ralus, and he was like boldness and courage and valor, strength. But over time, I decided I wanted to change them, and that it didn't take long to change them. So I changed them, and I retconned it. So now they're actually like a married couple, which made me change
Didn't
the
you
entire...
change it right about the time we actually got married?
No. Yeah.
Not coincidence, is it?
I probably did. But, which is crazy, like this crazy, like the most popular religion of northern and southern Garland is a dualist religion with like two gods that they worship like equally, because those gods are considered to be like two parts of one whole, and you can't have one without the other, and they fit each other. Like you can't worship Ralus without Rhea, because compassion without strength is nothing, and wisdom or valor without wisdom is nothing. So they are exactly like two halves of a whole, and they are not one of them is valued over the other one. And then that turned into changing the religion of Ralus and Rhea to where the priests have a life quest, which is called finding their other. And finding their other is a life quest where they have to go out and they have to find someone who fulfills all of their absences, like what they don't have in themselves. And it gets really tricky when that person isn't willing to be the other or something like that, you know, because you never know.
That's
because supposedly the gods pick for you.
Yeah, the campaign with Jennifer, that was Sard. That was her.
Yeah.
She left.
You're supposed to get a sign from Rallis and Ray
Yeah.
telling you it's your other.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out because they're already in the church.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't because you're like, really?
Sometimes you gotta like leave and like try to find them.
And if it doesn't work out, you go find a different one.
Yeah.
But because you need the idea behind
But
Rallis
there's
and
a
Ray
sign.
is that you are not perfect by yourself, never, nor will you be.
Mhm.
You have to find the other half of your whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Rallis and Ray, I kind of like I built Rallis and Ray, and then I built like the world around them and around them and around them, and you know, and them being the patron deities of Garland, which is the main continent.
Okay.
But I mean,
so-
I was surprised we're talking about Rallis and Ray without talking about Kothos. I mean, come on, Kothos.
The reason I picked Rallis.
He's Kothos.
I know.
He's
Okay,
Kothos.
go ahead and tell us a little bit about
Kothos. I have a few players who like I'm pretty sure have like a weird like love of Kothos. Kothos is amazing. He's the only god who's so arrogant that he actually manifests in physical form on the world because he believes he's unkillable. He's the only god in my world that killed all the other evil gods back in the past in the game and like in the history of it
Mhm.
because he didn't want anyone to like, you know, step on his toes. And the only reason Rallis and Ray can't kill him is because they're two gods and he's only one. Well, and there's the weird love triangle thing where back when they were mortal, because in my game, all like most gods were mortal point, he was in love with Rhea, and he can't bring himself to kill her, because even though he's a god, he one time was a man. But I mean, he's like the god
There's
of
so much history and story.
yeah, and he's like the god of tyranny, but he protects his people because you can't rule a country of people you've destroyed, but he rules them with an iron fist. But it's still better than living in a country with like no. It's strange, and I can't explain it in like 3 sentences. But he's so. I mean, we've had games where he's helped the heroes because he knows they're facing something that's going to destroy the world. And you can't just let him destroy the world.
Right.
He's not an idiot. He's like, well, if the world's destroyed, what do I have to rule over? So there's always this constant tension between Rallis, Ray, and Kothos, and that's like the big, you know, Kothos who rules the country of Ereg Nasan.
So let's go back to like a little bit about the like players. So when you have in-game conflict and it spills into real life, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, people just gotta be adults. Just talk to them afterwards. Like any other hobby, whether you're playing flag football, you know, disc golf, anything like that, people get into stuff, and when they get into stuff, they can kind of like butt heads. The job of the DM is to be a ref.
Yeah.
You have to have someone who's has some charisma. Well, you don't have to, but that's like having a ref with no eyes. Like, it doesn't really work too well. Like, it has some charisma, some force of personality, and the ability to, like, resolve conflict. I resolve conflict for a living.
Right.
So, in that sense, when I'm running the game, I'm good at keeping it resolved at the moment. But especially my players I have now, like, they know how to play together.
Right. That kind of spills into the next question, too, is like if people are having issues outside the game, but then they come and sit at the table and play D&D together, like, how do you deal with that conflict?
It's like anything else. You expect them to be like, okay, you're coming to sit at the table. It's a group effort. If you can't handle yourself because the guy sitting across the table borrowed $30 from you a week ago, you know, and never paid it back, so you hate him.
I don't feel like we ever have any issues.
No,
like,
but in my time of
but I'm
DMing,
sure
I've seen that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Absolutely seen that. I've seen that stuff a lot, and it's a part of a hobby. You just talk to them. Hey, look, if you can't handle yourself, one of you's got to go, because I'm not going to have one person ruin the game for everybody else.
Right. We would just not play.
Yeah. So I would rather have that person step back and let me NPC them and like run their character per session if they're not feeling it, because not everyone's going to be on their A game all the time.
Right.
I love the world I created. No, I love the world we've created. And when you see my players, they've created it with me. They were a part of every process. Every hero is a character who has played. Every storyline arc was from a character who played it. I want to share that with people. I finally got to the point in my life where I'm just like, yeah, I play D&D. Whatever. I don't care. And people are like, oh, I don't know anything about it. So this is for the people who like aren't already into the culture. Our production values are not going to be high. I mean, we're doing this on our own. We don't have $1 million backers. But I could run a game. I run games for years, like as in a campaign that lasted years, and I'm willing to tell that story. And so
Those
if you
stories are so epic.
and I don't tell her to say these things.
I can't even. Just
Yeah.
they're just epic.
So I'm starting a new story, like I said in the other Brainless Geeks video about Parl. Campaign's called Long Live the Silver Blades. We have our setup right now, and we're going to set it up. Like I said, you're not going to see the highest production quality because we got 5 kids and we had to buy all this stuff ourselves. So this is an effort of love. This is an effort of absolute dedication. Like,
for sure.
It was my players who pushed me to do this. Like, I was like totally cool just running my games. It was my players who were like, we need to record this. We need to record this. We need to record this.
Not only just to have it too, because like in years, like future years, we'll be like, oh, do you remember one time? Well, let's go watch it.
Remember the time when the characters fought a house?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember the time when the characters, were running across towers as they were falling, like jumping from stone to stone because they were like 17th level? By the way, we started level 1. I make them work every single step of the way up to the high level.
Hence the 2.
But anyways,
sessions
just be with us. We want to share our story with you. Like I said, we're doing this out of love. No one's paying us to do this. We have paid money to do this. So, stick around, and tomorrow we'll be recording our first session of Long Live the Silver Blades. I have 6 players. I have, and you'll get to know them better, I have a fighter, bugbear, named Mock. I have a daring, garish rogue named Jard Keldon, of the noble Keldon family, kind of a playboy. I have Lemon, who is a pacifist priestess of Ralsarea, has a vow of pacifism. I have Beatrix, the one-legged ranger. Well, she's like an archer. She has a clockwork leg. It's a pretty cool story. I have Garwin, a 6'8", 18 strength bard, who's also a chef and has a telescoping. I mean, it's just crazy. And then I have Ayan, a water wizard who's currently the water master of a city, who I would say is lacking in social skills.
It's also Beatrice's sister.
Oh yeah, that's Beatrix's. Beatrice. Do we name her Beatrice or Beatrix? Beatrice. Mm-hmm. Beatrice's sister. So we'll do it. We're going to talk to all these characters tomorrow. You're going to get to know them a little better. But yeah, join in with us. Watch this adventure. It's going to be awesome. And hope to see you guys there.